Hello, Naeem. Welcome to AI for Business. If I were to say very briefly, you are a founder, investor, educator, and you bring all of that to the table to help startups, especially in the B2B space. You help them with product market fit. You have had multiple exits before. So tell us in your own words, what do you do these days and what excites you?
Yeah, so I'm electrical engineer by training. So after 7 startups and 5 times CEO gigs, I finally now advise other CEOs and coach them to maximize their potential. And I also have been teaching entrepreneurship at University of California, Berkeley and Northeastern University for the last 19 years. I've written 5 books on entrepreneurship. I have invested as an angel investor in about 24 companies, and I've been advised or on the board of like 35 companies over the years. If you use an iPhone or a Mac with a fingerprint sensor, we invented that technology and 28 patents, which was eventually acquired by Apple. It showed up in your Apple products. Another company in mobile security was acquired by Oracle. We did a company which was how to charge a fleet of electric vehicles, buses, acquired by Ford. We was involved with the board level with the company making LiDAR technology, which went public. Quick Turn Systems was about chip design verification that went public. And maybe some other ones I'm forgetting. Oh, company in IoT and agriculture bought by UPL. That was my last company. So been very steeped into the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, investments, venture capital in Silicon Valley for the last 30 years.
That is massive. I remember the first time that we met was at Pitch Global. I think it was about 2 weeks back. And I was just hooked, really. I think you were the first speaker there. And I was like, you know how to convey your thought and your learning to the audience. That's huge. Not everybody can do that. And that is, gem for a lot of founders. And that's why I wanted to speak to you, to trickle a little bit of that over here for the founders. Having had all of this experience, what you've basically learned about product market fit? What's the most misunderstood part of product market fit for today, especially for AI startups? Because now everything is .ai, and I'm afraid we're something like the .com era, and we're like now the .ai boom.
No, absolutely. It is upending all the businesses in more ways than one, just like internet did. But remember, the internet became popular after Netscape IPO in 1995. But it took maybe 5 years before it permeated how business is done across all industries, and maybe even longer. AI will be quicker, already happening faster, but it will upend. We don't even know how to think about it right now. Just like Uber would not have existed if we did not have the internet and a smartphone and the APIs and all the integration, GPS, all things in one device. So similarly in AI, we're just building the foundations right now. Sure, there are some use cases. There are some companies vertically integrated. But going back to your question, what is product market fit issue? Short answer is start with the use case. AI is just a tool to solve a problem more efficiently and quickly. But what is the problem you want to solve? So product market fit becomes clear if you start with the problem, work backwards, and see how can I solve it more efficiently using AI on my side. So it's not AI looking for problems to solve. The nice thing about AI is that product market fit, or even broader than that, any startup is a series of experiments. You're seeking proof points, and you may do dozens of experiments to find out, is there a product market fit? What AI does, it accelerates the whole process. Now you can do 2,000 experiments. You can have agents doing various experiments simultaneously and conclude the result. So the speed of execution is now 10x, 100x, 1,000x faster. So hopefully people should be able to find product market fit sooner. Not quite there yet. People don't know how to use this stallion they have under their belt. And this horse can run fast, but which way do we point the horse? What is a horse going to do? Do I even understand what a horse is able to accomplish? So that is something, the wrestling we have to do as entrepreneurs in the next few months.
Right. What would you say is the relationship between product market fit and go-to-market strategy or GTM motions, especially early stage when founders are just starting off?
GTM is a process. Product market fit is the destination. So let's break that down. What is GTM involves? GTM involves about 5 things. How do people will find out that I exist? Number two, how will they be able to buy my product? Is it online? Is it indirect channel? Is direct channels? Number three, what is the pricing and how does it compare with other alternatives I have? What is my total cost of ownership? Number four, partnerships. Who are the existing players they already do business with or trust, which will take me to them, or I will be able to fill a hole in the bigger existing company's product, so they will drag me along with them, so I will have credibility. I will not be treated like a 5% startup company, but I'm coming as a part of Accenture because I fill a hole in their offering. So that partnership is the next thing. And the fifth element in product market fit will be just the whole persona and following you create, which creates momentum. So these are the methods. Product market fit is the destination. And what is product market fit? Let's spend 30 seconds on that. This is like falling in love. When suddenly you lose the control of your body. Your body does things you don't even expect it to. You laugh for no reason, you cry for no reason. That's product market fit. When people want your product, you don't know why, they just want it. And you don't understand what is good, so good about it. What are they falling in love? But they found something which fits the need and they pull you. So this happens rarely. It's an elusive goal. Last time I saw product market fit in my own company, frankly, to be honest with you, was 1998. People were just
Was
wanting
it?
the product. We had no idea why they kept buying it. But it's an elusive goal. It's not easily people fit. People talk about it like it happens every day. No, it is elusive.
And which product was that?
That was quick turn design system, design verification product. And today, every single complex chip, all NVIDIA chips use quick turn emulation technology for verifying the chip design. We struggled for like 7, 8 years to really push the rope. But 97, 98, they were pulling the rope. We couldn't. And a year later, company was acquired. And now that company is worth about $9.6 billion. That technology became prevalent.
That's amazing. So in your own ventures, looking at product market fit and getting to that destination, startups like founders may need to pivot. What is the framework that you think within to decide when to pivot, when to double down? And if you have any examples for that.
So the short answer is nobody knows.
Mm.
It's like, should you dump your boyfriend? Nobody can give you a formula or a framework. Answer is, it's not going the right way. I don't feel right about it. And there are better opportunities out there. So you examine. So it is like that. It is that ambiguous and that close to your heart. So you pivot because you just finally realize it's not going where I need to go. Remember, startup is a series of experiments, dozens, if not hundreds of experiments. When experiment is not yielding the result, you change the experiment. You have to figure out which segment needs you more. At what price point it's a no-brainer. At how do you need to appear differently from competition? These are all experiments. So you have to design and have proof points and measure these experiments till you fall into product market fit.
Is it fair to say that so we have KPIs that we have to hit. Like we have to say, okay, this is the KPI I want to reach, this is the numbers I want to reach. Um, we may not know exactly when we're going to get to these kind of reach these numbers. A lot of founders lose their runway sticking to the same idea or just keep iterating and not getting to the right product market fit, not hitting the KPIs. If we wanted to speak a little bit more kind of tangible about how to do this, should we think of our own resources or should we think of, do we have to set numbers and goals for ourselves? Okay, now we haven't reached it within, say, the next 3 months. Let's think of something else. Let's move on to the next feature. Let's retire this one or make some changes before even we pivot the whole product. How do you think about that?
Let's go back to the earlier part of your sentence. We have KPIs we have to reach. No, that is wrong. This is called, I call it myth of goals.
Mm.
You arbitrarily pick that we must reach 1,000 downloads this month. We should reach 10 customers by end of the quarter. That is silly because that number has no basis in any reality. You just made up a number which makes you feel good. Incorrect way of doing a startup. The way I would want people to think about that is, what are we trying to prove? And what experiments are we running? How do we know we're getting close to that experiment? So what should we even be my metrics? So what I want people to do is measure everything. When you measure everything, all 10, 20, 25 data points, then you begin to see which one moved the needle, which one are the right one. Then they become your metrics. So let's take an example. So we were thinking that we have to judge the how much, which one of our SDR, sales development reps, how many meetings can they set up? And we were doubling down the one who can set up more than like 10 meetings a week. And we're punishing or firing the one who couldn't set up enough meetings. We thought that measuring how many meetings are set up is the right metric, right KPI to see how much sales could be. When we really start measuring everything, we realize the people who are interested in our product from our website or whatever, they did not even set up a meeting with the SDR. They directly went and bought the product.
Mm.
So we realized we were measuring the wrong thing. So idea was when you measure everything, you can see that's clarity is over there. We're rewarding and measuring the wrong KPIs. So don't fall for KPIs till you have measured everything. You can look at the pattern. You can figure out what should we double down on, what should we measure. So it's all about seeking the proof point. For example, if you think we should be able to do with this ad campaign, our conversion rate, our click-through rate is 90 to 1. You would like to improve it. So question would be, okay, should we change the heading of or the copy of the ad? What is the click? Oh, it went to 40 to 1. Okay, what if you change different color, different font? So you're doing A/B testing, but you're trying to see what is the click-through rate which will make it profitable. Answer is it has to be less than 10 to 1. So you set a bunch of experiment till you can find out it's profitable now, because at that point people buy enough products. So it's all about experiments. The way you run a company, your staff meetings about what experiments did you run? Oh, so what did you learn? Oh, what is your new experiments? Okay, Jennifer, what was experiment did you run? Many people don't run companies like that. They say, hey, Jennifer, how was your last week? What did you do? And so point is, it's all about proof points, all about experiments. Pivoting is not a big pivot. As you refine experiment, you realize what is working, what is not working.
So basically taking small chunks
Yeah.
and measuring as many things, as many metrics. Don't stick with just one KPI and say, okay, that's all of it. Or I mean, not one necessarily, but it's not experiment more. When you experiment more, you'll find more metrics. You'll find more things to figure out which direction to go pivots.
Yeah. What are the true drivers of success? What's the true
Mhm.
driver? Where do we? Because otherwise you get myopic. So you're correct. Your assessment, what you said is correct.
Let's gear towards fundraising and you know, discussions around board management, which you have a ton of experience around. You've raised venture capital multiple times for your own companies, and you advise startups on that as well. What would you say that has changed in the founder VC dynamics? I wouldn't say even in the last decade, but in the just past couple of years, maybe, especially with the AI boom. What would you say this dynamic, how has it changed these days?
Since it has become so much easier to start a business without a huge amount of upfront investment, it has changed dynamics in two ways. Too many people are starting a company because it's easier to start. You don't need to raise the first $3 million to start a company. You can start a company with $100,000 because using AI, agentic flows and whatnot. So which means there are too many companies, so it takes longer to stand out and be noticed. On the other hand, your dependence on VC is also reducing. So in some sense, the power is shifting from invest VCs to founders because you can make a lot of progress, get to even revenue without raising a huge amount of money. So you can be more choosy whose money you take and who will be supportive of what it is. So we are in the middle of this shift when the power pendulum is swinging in the favor of founders, And job of the VC is becoming trickier. Then how do they deploy? So you see many VCs now focusing on late stage VCs. A lot of the big firms have set up a separate fund for late stage because that's a different dynamics when you're trying to scale. It's not the very early stage, not seed, pre-seed, but more like Series C, D, and E. So let's see how it plays out. We're in the middle of the storm.
Got it. Um, what would you say that is one mistake that first-time founders do post-fundraise in their board management?
I think the biggest mistake is they think the board is their boss. They think that they report to the board. They use phrases like, I think board is not going to like that. I think board will go for that. I think, let me check with the board. That's a mistake. You don't report to the board. Board is your helpers. They're at your service. Your job is to have a specific ask for each board member. What I want them to do. When you talk to the board, there are three buckets of things which you want to tell them. One is things FII, for your information, just reporting on product, customer status. Second bucket is things you tell the board so that you can make a more informed decision based on their feedback. This is like hiring a vice president or some C-suite person or entering into a partnership with another company. You want their advice or which investors to approach for the next round of funding. The third bucket is when you inform the board, and only board can make that decision. It's not your decision to make. That's like M&A, selling the company, IPO, issuing more stocks, issuing stock options. That's board level decision. First time entrepreneurs confuse the three buckets. About 80% of the things are in the first bucket, FII. Only 15% of the issues are in the second bucket. When you need board's counsel, but you'll make the decision. Only 5% of the things fall into the third bucket. First-time founders put everything in the third bucket. Like, mommy, what should I do now? And pretty soon, board says, like, why do I need you if I'm making all the decision? Because all the board members were most likely ex-CEOs of some company before they became VC. They all have an opinion. So it's not like they're short of opinion. But then first-time founders mix this thing, and that's maybe the biggest mistake.
Mm-hmm. We're in 2025. Again, there's a lot of companies that have at least an AI element in some way, shape, or form in their product. What traits or what strategies would you say separate these companies that still get funded from the ones that don't?
Short answer, they have a better story. See, fundraising is all about telling a story which is believable and compelling.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you may have a good technology, but don't have a story to go with it, you will not be noticed. You'll be buried. So storytelling is a bigger part than anything else. Now, customers make the story real. Demos make the story more believable. Traction makes the story easy to be convinced of. But you need a story. And story is not what I'm doing now. What's the big vision? If all goes well, what is the new world looks like? People buy into the vision. If they believe the vision, then they see, are you able to execute? That's the short-term execution plan. But if you don't have a story, you don't stand out.
Yeah.
So
we hear a lot about founder fit. What is your take on that? Do you believe in that? Have you heard of this? I mean, I'm sure you have, because it's pretty prevalent. What's your take on that?
the founder has to have some deep insights in the customer needs, into the domain. That comes from either being a student of that domain, having worked in this domain, and have a deep insight more than anybody else. Because that deep insight drives the strategy, whether it's product strategy, go-to-market strategy, funding strategy. So if founder doesn't demonstrate that command of the domain or the customer insight and the need, that founder struggles. Because that is the foundation of the story. So if you don't have that, just because if I try to say, I have a great idea for the insurance industry, I think the things could be much more efficient. But I never worked in insurance. So I will have some story to tell, but that story will not have the depth or the clarity and the purity which somebody who's worked in the industry for some time and really has some insight. So I think there's something said about authenticity of the message.
Right. And how about solo foundership versus having a co-founder? because another thing, another theme basically that I'm hearing, and in the session that we met each other, there was a very smart woman who was a solo founder, and she was asked, "Who is your co-founder?" And her answer was 35% of the startups that are getting funded are now solo founders. What is your thought around that? Now that products can be built faster with AI and all of that, is it still important to go after a co-founder? Should we take it step by step, build the founding team, then, raise people to co-founder, or go solo and hire the team if founders have the money? What do you think about that?
So trend is definitely in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
That solo founder can go a far, far deep into the distance than really. But let's examine why we need a co-founder. There are fundamentally two reasons. One is the task is bigger than anybody can tackle alone. So you need to divide and conquer. Somebody could be very technical and focused on product development. One is focused on business development or some other way to cut the pie because task is larger than one can handle. The second reason is a single knife doesn't sharpen itself. You need two knives to sharpen both of them. Who you're going to spar with is having a sparring partner to refine your idea. If you don't have it, everybody will have to suffer with whatever idea you had. So if you look at many monarchs and dictators, they were able to just impose their will and there was nobody who could challenge them. And the best ideas seldom come out of that way. You can get lucky from time to time, but in general, it's the sparring which refines ideas. If you have no co-founder, you're not sparring with anybody. Can you still fumble your way into the end zone? Yes, possible. But it's more likely that if you had sparring partners, you'll get there. Now, can you get sparring partners? But this is the shift in the trend which you talked about. With AI, you can go further than you were able to go alone. Now you can, because agents will be your co-founders. Can you still get sparring partners? Answer is yes, with the right coach or right advisors, you could create at least some version of it. It's not as deep as somebody whose life depends on it, who's a co-founder, but it is possible. And that's the role I play as a coach to the CEOs is the sparring partner. Challenge them, make them justify their thinking. And that can work. So what you said is correct, that there's a shift in the air when solo founders are more acceptable than they were even 3-4 years ago. Let's see, do we end up with a better outcomes? It's too early. We're in the middle of the transition.
Mm-hmm. So two follow-up questions. One, does that mean that the founder fit or founder's prior experience now matters more? Or can a coach and can a mentor help fill that gap? Or can like experts in that field that are helping her advisors help her or him in that? And second, is there a golden rule to finding the right co-founder, basically?
So, again, going back to that analogy, what's the difference between having a wife or a husband or a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Both of
Mm,
them satisfy at least 50% of the needs. But there is something about in a committed relationship, maybe legally committed relationship, which goes deeper. You have more at stake jointly. There is a deeper purpose which joins you. That happens only with a co-founder. Can you still date your way out of the jungle? Yes, you can. But the level of commitment, level of involvement, level of understanding the shared vision and the shared history is less. Not a disaster, but there is a distinct difference, and most people can feel it.
yeah, they do say like the founder co-founder relationship is like a marriage. And I wonder, is it a better strategy that, work with someone for a while in some capacity and then become co-founders?
Yeah. So again, I apologize for my analogies. Is having arranged marriage versus dating and living together before you get married.
Mm-hmm.
The latter one seems much more sensible. But if you look at the success rate, arranged marriage have a better success rate in terms of number of divorces. So it is not to be ignored because what makes the marriage work and what makes the co-founder relationship work, the number one factor in my mind is a deep mutual respect. And the second most important thing is a sense of humor. If you, those things, two things can be brought together, you can overcome many, many obstacles in marriage as well as co-founder relationship. So yes, you work together or went to school together. There is a comfort which is built in, but you also have deep mutual respect for each other. That is going to be the glue, just like in marriage. So point is, with the arranged marriage analogy, that is, it's not necessarily less successful if you end up meeting the co-founder and very quickly decide to do something because you have shared vision and mutual respect and then shared purpose that comes together and is enough of a glue to make it work.
Love that. Shared vision and shared respect. That sounds doable. Makes it easy for a lot of us to think about it.
Yeah.
Um, and about the early hires of a team, like let's say the first 5 hires on a startup team. What would you say are the non-obvious traits that you want to screen for? Because we can look at their resumes, we can bring others to kind of, if it's not in our specialty, to interview them and whatnot. But what is something non-obvious that we should look for?
Non-obvious is you need to think about how many months do I buy with this hire? It's a time acceleration strategy, which is not how people think about most hires. If without this person, we can do it in 6 months, but this person will get in 3 months, that's worth investing in. That's a different metric. The second thing which you want to look for is that is this person an A player? Because B players hire C players. A players hire A players. Because you make some compromise because somebody was cheaper and they were available and they were recommended by your uncle, you end up a couple of B players. What will happen is when next A players comes, they can sniff out the B players and C players. They say, I have to work with these guys? I don't think so. And then you have a mediocre organization, which is very, very hard to fix, if not impossible. The first 5 players, if A players, they're going to attract the next 10 A players. So you have to look for the time acceleration and will they have the talent to attract other A players?
How do you define A players? Like, give me like top 3 traits in an A player.
They have a chip on their shoulder. In some way, they're better than the roommate, better than their brother, better than their father, whatever. So it drives them. So another way of saying that, what drives this person? If it's just money and a comfortable life, that's probably not an A player. Number 2, do they have passion for things? Because somebody who's very passionate about one thing, chances are they're passionate about many things. The guy's passionate about snowboarding and really can demonstrate how is he passionate, or about cooking or whatever, chances are that passion will be in other aspect of his or her life. So you look for that. And third thing is, what is the alignment with the vision? Why do they want to take this job? If an A player can get any job, so why this? What is their reasoning? Which may not be different than what you think is your reasoning. If they can see themselves casting a large shadow, being relevant to the world, and that's the driving them, you don't have to motivate them all. They're motivated. You look for those 3 things, then you have to develop specific questions and test those things out. But if you can, you'll be better off.
I still want to know a little bit more about what you mean when you say they have a chip on their shoulder. Do they have to have like the thirst and hunger? There's a, certain pain that they need to solve? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, for example, all 3 things you said, those could be chip on the shoulder. Question is what drives people. You and I both have met people, they want a comfortable life. They live for the weekend. And this is a way to just afford their weekend. There are many people like that, nothing wrong with those people, but they don't make the great early five employees. That's a different kind of person. They have some chip on their shoulder, whatever that may be, which is fueling the fire. If you understand what's fueling your fire, then you're able to fuel it, flame it.
I'm thinking of the vetting process of finding these people. How do you kind of basically understand whether or not these are the traits that they have? I feel that's why maybe the hiring process in startups is sometimes so long. I've seen.
Yeah.
They talk too tactical. They bring on the whole team sometimes to do the interview in multiple stages, which makes a lot of sense based on what you're saying. Makes a ton of sense. Let's talk a little bit about the tactical execution part of stuff, because you've helped a lot of startups build their go-to-market strategies and all of that. What's the first go-to-market GTM motion that you recommend for those startups that are enterprise focused?
See, in a short answer, find somebody with the hair on fire. The long
Mm,
answer is an enterprise will be crazy to buy from a startup company. Nobody needs to stick their neck out and take a risk on a small company which may or may not exist. Who knows what can go wrong?
hmm
So no sane manager in an enterprise ever wants to buy from a startup unless you have your hair on fire. Something you'll get fired, company will go out of business, something terrible will happen. You say, fine, I'll just take my risk. I have no other option left. I can give you every time in my life we have found in QuickTurn, we were trying to sell this big complex chip design verification system, and the company was Prime Computer. If they don't make the next product by next August, they introduce it, they were going to be out of business. They were sort of on their last leg. When we showed them that our system can accelerate the schedule by 6 months and they can possibly do it, they were all in, we were all in. This company was at stake. And it was painful for both parties, but we got it done. They were so impressed that they actually, when we had a trade show, our annual trade show at June, they showed up. We had the demonstration. Those executives from Prime Computer were there talking to customer. It changed our fortune. My company, Bitzer Mobile, when we were doing mobile security, so I happened to be giving a lecture, talk to somebody that, what we do. And some guy said, hey, do you want to talk to my wife? She worked for Chevron IT. She was talking about that how employees cannot connect their iPhones and iPads to the corporate servers. So I met with them and they said, look, when the last board member, one of the board members showed up with the iPad his granddaughter gave him, and he couldn't access any of the board material, and he was pissed off, like, why not? And he so kind of said, by next board meeting, better fix this problem. So we couldn't figure out, we do X.509 certificates, we have dual factor authentication. Then I asked, they said, can you do it? We said, yes, we can do it. They said, we don't believe you. Show us a demo. So we worked hard, figured out, did a demo. So I said, why did you buy from us? Have you ever done business with a startup company? They said, no, we hate startup companies. So why us? They said, because we talk to every company out there. They don't even understand the question, let alone have an answer. You're the first one who says, and we are on a deadline. We are hair on fire. So there is an example like that. So short answer is find somebody with the hair on fire. Otherwise, there are a lot of tire kickers. They'll be curious. They want to learn. Like Chase Bank was JP Morgan Chase. My first
hmm
meeting was JP Morgan Chase. Loved the idea, liked it. 11 meetings and 2.5 years later, still haven't bought anything. Very
Mm.
curious. Love to update, but they have didn't have hair on fire.
Is it then fair to say that founders who can build those kind of products for the enterprise, who have their hair on fire, is basically the ones who've been in the trenches or have some connection with, closer connection, like speaking to the wife of somebody who is actually feeling very close to that problem, and then you're able to basically build on that and solve that problem. This is actually a question for maybe investors' point of view. Should they look for this kind of founders? Maybe.
Well, maybe, but my point is that a founder with a chip on the shoulder will find somebody who is
Mm,
desperate. Every B2B company has found somebody like that. B2C is very different dynamics B2C. But point is that if you're unlikely to find that victim if you don't talk about what you do. So the learning lesson here is most people are secretive about what they're working on.
yes.
You meet many people that say, what are you working on? Oh, we're working on AI. Okay, great. Like AI, like what kind of AI? Well, AI in fintech. What exactly? And by the time I'm already bored. But if they said that we're using AI to detect fraud on online transaction using AI, that will opens up a possibility. Something, my neighbor, he's at a bank vice president. He was talking about fraud. But you have to give enough out there so people can find the hook. And most entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs, don't want to do that. And that's silly.
They're worried that the idea gets stolen or something.
Yeah,
Right.
which is so silly because that idea is not that unique. I've never heard an idea which was that unique that I've never heard of it before.
Mm-hmm.
And if the ideas, the moment you say the idea, somebody can figure out the solution, guess what? It's not a very good idea. The hard part of any idea is the execution. How you go about doing it, fulfilling it, putting all the pieces together. That's the hard part. So if you talk to somebody and they're immediately able to figure out all the execution steps and are equally motivated to solve the problem and willing to give up their life, their income, their friends to solve the problem, guess what? You should make them a co-founder.
Got it.
So people get worried for wrong reasons.
Very true. Very true. A lot of the first time founders are like, oh, I'm not going to talk about it. What is it? I'm stealth. And then two words
Yeah,
come out. What is your space? B2B done. That way you can't even, understand what
can't
they're
even
working
help them. And I've learned is when this is stealth, I mean, they have no idea. They're still figuring it out. They don't know themselves.
Yeah, they're trying to figure it out. But they'll learn it the hard way, like most of us did. So for founders in the, say, 0 to 1 ARR stage, right? What is would you say, is a tactical execution mistake that slows down their revenue stream more than they realize and more than they know?
See, in the beginning, the founder mistake they make it is they try to get more and more customers hooked up. They believe the way they will be measured success is that how many customers, how many pilots we have going on.
Remember, this
Oh,
was a question that I asked you in Pitch Global, and you're like, "No, that's not the metric you should be focusing on."
exactly. Because, I just talked to a founder. Actually, I'm going to see him today. And yeah, he said, we had two pilots. Now we have nine pilots. Like, yay! I want at least 15. I said, no, that is not how you're going to measure success. You measure will be how referenceable were the first three pilots. All your energy needs to go to making the first one, two. I like to use at least two because one can get sick, is getting married, something slows down. So you want to have at least two, but maybe three. So you can at least try to service all three of them. Your whole metric should be how successful it is, how frictionless it is. You should be measuring experiments. How many days does it take for them to start be useful? How many days for installation? How many clicks they have to do to start using the product? There's so many things to measure. You want to make it as frictionless as possible, as quickly to see results as possible. You should be sitting and watch them use the product. Once you figured that out and you make them referenceable, then you go for the next 5 or next 10. But your metric should not be how many more spread out I am right now. That can kill you.
What about if you show a little bit of what your product is going to look like, regardless of if you're in B2B or in B2C, right in the beginning of the product? I've always thought about that, and I see some companies, some products do that, especially like mobile apps. They show you like a super quick demo that acts like a hook. If it's longer than maybe 5 seconds, it kills it for me. But what is your thoughts on? Have you seen some of the apps out there that this is kind of their strategy, and then you get hooked?
I have not seen that. And if somebody showed it to me, I'll be skeptical that they're hiding
Mm.
something. Because if
Oh,
they're trying to just flash me something so quick, it's probably some fake hook. I'll be immediately skeptical. I want, as a B2B especially, want to deal with people who are transparent, to the extent reasonable, and truthful so I can trust them. Remember, sales is about two things, trust and discipline. If you broke the trust, it's unlikely I'll go very far. I may just use you one time just to solve my short-term pain problem, but I'm not referenceable for you. And discipline is how disciplined you are in follow-up, in looking after me, or are you just going to the next flower and abandoning me? So the disciplined approach and trust approach are the two ways you're going to succeed in B2B.
um, one to last question is if you want to give founders one lesson to take away, first time founders, early stage, what would that lesson be? I know there's so many, but give
There's
us
so
the,
many, and in different dimension. But at the end of the day, identify what problem are you solving and who needs you more. I talk to so many founders, they cannot articulate these two things succinctly. They give some long-winded answer, which mostly about their solution or technology. But if you can learn to articulate what problem are you solving and who needs you more, that clarity of mind will serve you with investors, with employees, with partners, and with customers.
My last question for you is, how can founders find you, and what is the best way to reach you?
Well, the short answer is Google me, Naeem Zafar. My books come up, I come up, and I work with a handful of CEOs in coaching, but I have also a network of many other advisors and coaches, and I'm also serve as a board member. But naeemzafar.com is my website, and LinkedIn also would be a good way. I'm very local.
And about the course that you're teaching in Berkeley, what's the name of the course?
Yeah, Berkeley course is called Technology Entrepreneurship. I've been teaching it for 19 years. But I also teach a lot of courses like online. I teach a mini MBA in entrepreneurship for Thai, the Indus entrepreneurs. And we're starting the next cohort in September. I've been teaching it for 5 years. We have 2 or 3 cohorts every year. It's basically 12 two-hour sessions, 6 of them live, 6 of them recorded, and deal with all the things a first-time founder needs to deal with. So if you Google mini MBA in entrepreneurship Thai or my name, it should come up. But yeah, we got through how to divide equity among the founders, how to figure out sales engine for startup, marketing engine, how to be investor ready, how to do market research.
I bought your book that's called Get Funded the same day.
Very
Um,
kind of you. Did you
so
read it? Was it useful or
I
not
haven't
yet?
started reading it. I've not started reading, but I'm going to read it. It's
Well, thank
I
you.
have to read it this week. It's coming up.
Well, that'll be good. That'll be good. Well,
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure having you, and maybe we'll talk soon later.
thank you, Sarah. Pleasure to talk to you. Look forward to it.